The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard Kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off-brand champion Mayday, the dog of the year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time best in show and two-time gamest in show. Going hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion El Rod, Champion Yellow Bird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off-brand champion Mayday, the dog of the year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time best in show and two-time gamest in show. Going hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion El Rod, Champion Yellow Bird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Debrat, the very first champion off-brand champion Mayday, the dog of the year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time best in show and two-time gamest in show. Going hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion El Rod, Champion Yellow Bird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the DeBrat, the very first champion off-brand champion Mayday, the dog of the year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time best in show and two-time gamest in show. Going hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the DeBrat, the very first champion off-brand champion Mayday, the dog of the year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time best in show and two-time gamest in show. Going hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
What up? What up? What's up? Y'all know what time it is. It's Talk Shit Tuesday. What up, everybody? What is up? Big shout out to everybody out there in the Shark Tank. Big shout out to all my people in the Shark Tank. Big shout out to all my people out there on the back street. Hey, yo, look, don't forget to hit that like button. Do not forget to hit that like button. And hey, if you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. Let me give a big shout out to everybody out there. Big shout out to my man Bloodthirst #1, aka 360 in the house. What up, fam? Yo, my man Branko in the house. What up, fam? Long time supporter, the one and only Mr. Dickie Foster in the house. What up, fam? Want to give a big shout out to my main man, Mr. William McNeil in the house. What up, fam? Yo, my man, Mr. John Dembry in the house. What up, fam? Yo, big shout out to my main man. Bite down and shake that like button, the one and only Double M Despo in the house. What up, fam? Yo, big shout out to my main man, War Eagle Yard Boy, aka Eli Monster in the house. What up, fam? Yo, CTK, Constant Trauma Kennels in the house. What up? Bam! Big shout out to Mr. O's in the house. What up, fam? Yo, my main man, Hardhead Rio. What up? Bam! Another long-time supporter, my main man, Mr. David Morse in the house. What up, fam? Yo, thumbs up in the muscle man in the house, BRB. What up, fam? Yo, big shout out to my man, Mr. Bruce Banner. What up, fam? Big shout out to New Juris Kennels Melee in the house. What up, fam? J-Yard Kennels in the house. What up, bam? Big shout out to Cannabis Cowboy in the house. What up, bam? Hey, don't forget to participate in that poll. Don't forget to participate in the poll. It is not a wrong or right answer. It's just, we just testing the waters. We testing the waters. Big shout out to Mr. 216 in the house. What up, bam? Union County Kennels in the house. What up, bam? All right, fellas. Look, I'm pretty sure y'all seen the fight over the weekend. Those who didn't, want to give a big shout out to my man, TC. That's Terrence Crawford, a.k.a. Bud in the house. Good fight, fellas. Y'all got to give it to him, a good fight. That's what, that's what it looked like when you got just two well-known bulldogs going at it. Somebody got to lose. You know what I mean? Don't take nothing away from the loser because he was there to be beat. That's what I loved about that fight, man. It was all about who wanted it the most. And sometimes styles just win. Styles win fights. And I just seen Bud just had a great style for that type of competitor. I think he did a lot. I mean, I'm going to give a big shout out to his handlers because they definitely had him ready. And we all know Bud got a chin. That chin was tested, though. That body was tested because Canelo put something on him, but it wasn't enough. And I take my hat off to two great warriors, you know what I mean? But that's what it looks like when you got changing other guards. You can't look back on the man Canelo and you just can't say that he's not a great fighter. I mean, he's lost, even though he had them losses. The thing is, with 63 wins, he got enough wins under his belt that he should, he handed out a hell of a lot of losses. So them losses don't take away from the greatness. I love the way that went. Let me see who we got here. Big shout out to my main man, Supreme Excellence in the house. What up, fam? So I'm gonna put that link down there because I want y'all to get in. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answers to this poll question tonight, but I sure would like to get some people's input on what y'all think about it. I want to give a big shout out to the Road Runner Combine in the house. What up, fam? Now, we always talk about the dog make the papers, but I thought, and we done been over a lot and we've covered a lot, but this is one of them kind of conversations where when you're looking at what history has given us and you analyze and you look over it, and then when you're talking about a good dog or a good dog man, who does the success fall back on? We've all been in them situations to where you had to stop and look at your litter, and you got to let some go, and you got to make that hard decision on what you got to let go. One of the things that we ran into when we did have the litters, and this is long before we were actually, I would say, with the puppies, people who actually got their hands on puppies from us, they were pretty well-known kennels. So they basically got some of the best, because at that time you don't know what is what, and when people come and they be wanting to get something off your yard, and then just being honest, we got to classify them. VBK. We're here in Florida to pick up a dog. You're standing there, you see the puppies, and then they looking at them, and they turn around and ask, twin, which one you think? You know what I'm saying? Which one you think? Twin tell them, well, the one I think would be that bitch right there. And they say, I want that bitch. And twin say, that's your bitch. That type of situation. That's one thing that he did, and on a consistent basis for all the big kennels that came through, they walked away what we considered what they picked or what they let us pick. And then they all turned out to be good dogs. But then again, it wouldn't have mattered if the dogs, wasn't about shit. It would just been like, I got them dogs twin, they wasn't shit. We didn't have that to worry about from the big boys, because we're looking at what's going to benefit us in the long run. We don't want them to be walking away with bullshit. We want to make sure they're getting the good shit, because they're going to do something with the dog. So at that point, not knowing what the dog's going to be, we feel comfortable about the decision you make, because you actually gave the dog to a good dog man. Now, what he makes of the dog, it's on him and the dog. Now, poll question tonight was, how important is the dog man to the success of the Game American Pit Bull Terrier's success? So far, we got 50% dog man, 50% dog, 74%. 30% dog man, 70% dog, 7%. 30% dog, 70% the dog man. And 2% to say it doesn't matter. Okay. I'd like to give a big shout out to everybody who's taking the poll. It's not too late to take the poll, because we're going to be jumping in, taking a look at that poll as we go on through the night. But what I would like to do, just for conversation. Hold on 1 second. Let me do this right quick. All right, I got that link up there. Anytime you want to just come up and voice your opinion, you can do so. Because I like to know about that 2% that said it doesn't matter. You know, that's a good one for me. I like to know how they're thinking in that situation. And all other ones. I mean, it's important for us to get different people's views on some of the things that we do, because I don't want it to be lopsided. You don't want to be like, you know, our way. I prefer to have it everybody's way. Now, I look at that 75% up there, that 50-50. You know, I like to know why y'all think the 50-50. You know, because what if the dog ain't shit? If it's in the right dog man's hand and they say it ain't shit, then you got to give it, you know, that holds a little bit more credibility compared to somebody who came and bought a dog and then you just think about what's the rest of the litter doing out there, you know? Who are some of the other people that have these dogs? How are they doing? Then you evaluate yourself as the person, the breeder, and you make your decision from there. But I thought the 50-50 was, I think it's a fair bet, because regardless of who is who or what is what, you know, we share the responsibility when it comes down to that. So, fellas, when you buy dogs, you have to understand that single point that you are going to share the responsibility for the dog. Now, how much responsibility lies on you? That's the poll question. Because I like to know how much of it falls back on you based on the success. Your success is always going to follow the dog's success. As long as the dog is successful, you're going to be successful. So at that point, you ask yourself, well, the dog wouldn't be successful if it don't be for the dog man. For me, that's a no-brainer. You know, for me, that's a no-brainer. But some people might think different, because we put a lot of responsibility as dog men on the dog, because we all feel like we know everything. You know what's good for him. But that don't always work like that. You know? And I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm just saying it does not always work like that. You know? I take that, let's see, Noriega in Ajax situation. You know, there was no doubt Noriega was a good dog. You know, Ajax was a good dog. But for that type of matchup, it would have been better for the dog to stay where he was than to be where he went. Because I thought Noriega would have beat Ajax with no problem if he had stayed where he was. And I do blame that loss on the dog man. Why that, twin? Well, it's evident that the young man didn't have the experience that was necessary to be dealing with a dog of that potential. Not taking nothing away from his knowledge, you know, not taking nothing away from his knowledge, but the facts, after it's all said and done, and you listen how it went, you know, lost both dogs, actually, literally. I felt that well, I personally felt that if Noriega had stayed where he was, Ajax would have been out of there and out of there fast. But that's my opinion. So let me see here. Who else we got in here? Let me take a quick peek right quick. Let me see here. Big shout out to the Roadrunner. Roadrunner said, then they blame the breeder when the animal don't turn out, but they fail to mention that they ain't up to par. But that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, Roadrunner, you're absolutely right. That's one thing about these dogs that I have learned over the years. You know, that's like one of them situations when, you know, you're getting smashed, and the first thing you start hearing when it's all over and said and done, that you got rubbed. You know, that's going to be the excuse for the loss. And, you know, that has been a part of the dog game since forever. You know, then you have them ones that just straight out just blame it on the dog. You know, at some point, when you're dealing with these dogs over years, I'm not talking about one or two dogs, I'm talking about years. Look at a lot of the great dog men that we talk about. The ones that have more than just one good dog, known to have many good dogs. They very seldomly make excuses for their dogs. But then on the other hand, you have a lot of other guys who will buy a dog, like the dog, become successful with the dog, and never give the breeder the respect that the breeder is due. You see, that dog that they made successful, that breeder is going to have more than just that dog, you know, in his repertoire of success. So when you spit bad on a breeder, and that breeder has other dogs out there just working good in everyone's hands, that makes the complainer, you know, you look at him and say, well, who's the messenger? You got to pay attention to who's the messenger. So what I'm saying is, you got to just stop and think about the decisions you make when it comes to any and everything you do in this game. Because when it all comes down to it, the dog's success, you're going to benefit from it. History has shown us that. A successful dog, they're always going to look at the dog man. I think that's important for you guys to remember. My man, War Eagle Yard Boy said, you might get a freak sometimes, but great yards make great dogs. That is so true. That's another one. That's another good one, because if you pay attention to when we talk about some of these great kennels, you know, they all have the ability to breed and create good dogs. Now, I didn't say, I mean, just because you create good dogs don't mean every dog that these guys had on the yards turned out to be great dogs. It doesn't work like that. But it's all about numbers. the consistency of what you're able to do with the dogs. You win with them, and you have a great breeding program from them, and then they get outside your yard and basically do and have the success on someone else's yard. I think that's more important than what you have on your yard. Can your breeding program be just as successful on someone else's yard as it was on your yard? Now, y'all know how much we said we copycatted. We always paid attention to what was winning and how they were doing it. That played a lot into a lot of the dogs that we had and why we had the success that we had. Because we paid close attention to what other people were doing. Giving credit where credit was due. You know, because in the long run, you're either going to have a good dog or you're going to have a piece of shit. And it's how you represent, you know, determines how many pieces of shit are you going to keep having before you have a good dog. That's important, especially when you're out here buying dogs and selling dogs. Let's see who I guess I got here. Let me see here. Big shout out to my man, Union County. He said 50-50 on the finished animal. I thought so also. Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm a 50-50 person. Because considering how we did things, with Mo, KP, and how they played things to the end, regardless of the fact, KP does his job, because the breeding's done. The dog's on the yard. Mo has to do his job. He got to get out there and we got to put him out there. When it's all said and done, it's a combination of when you actually sit back and then you evaluate the dog. That's why it was always important after, these dogs' match careers in the breeding program. It was always going to be, it just didn't stop after the wins. It had to move forward. And the decisions that they made as we were moving forward, the responsibility never changed. The dog didn't have a choice, when it came down to who he wanted to go get stuck to. So that puts it back on the dog man. He has to make that choice. And then in the process of making that choice, who are you letting these dogs go to? And that's all about the dog man and his mindset. Remember on our very first video of the yard, we said you have to, one of the most important things you had to do when you were creating a yard is you had to make up your mind of what you were going to be. Were you going to be a breeder, or were you going to be a fighter? You had to make your mind up. Because for me, I thought it was always easier for somebody to just breed dogs together, roll the dice, and boom, see what it comes up with. But one of the things as we have talked about over the 3 years that we've been doing this and trying to just hammer home based on the foundation is pay attention to when these guys were taking these females breeding into certain dogs. For us, that was always important because if you really think about it, we've already said if we had a choice to start the yard off with something, we was always going to start off with a good bitch. And it's hard to, we have to make that hard decision on how we going to breed that bitch. Because your success going to start from there. So keeping those things in mind as we move down this list here. Let me see. Big shout out to the Game Breaker. I see you, man. Yo, Cosman Cal TV in the house. What up, fam? War Eagle, he says, Hargrove, my mentor, God love him, had 200 dogs, but best yard I've ever seen, had 17 adult dogs. It doesn't matter how big your yard is, because I'm telling you, Suburbanite Paul, most of all the boys up there in Detroit, and some of the big in the inner cities. I mean, they didn't have the ability to have, them big yards. So you could almost best believe that anything that they was feeding and keeping in them crates, they were going to be the best of the best. And I've seen a lot of yards that were small, that everything on it was about that life. I want to give a big shout out to my man, Cortland Ross in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to Kaz. Kaz says 70% man. I guess that would be 30% dog in his opinion. Well, you put a whole lot on that man. Hey, Kaz, the link is down there, man. For anybody else is not down there. Hey, I want to hear from some of them 2%ers, though. Let me see here. I know it doesn't matter. Man, I just would like to know, with that doesn't matter, that 4%, I sure would like to know where that comes from. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. I just would like to know that the way of thinking. What brings you to that? The link is I think I put the link down there. If I have to go back and put it in there, I would not have a problem with it. Let me see who else I got here. That's it. My man Double M Desbo, he says, I say C because the dog can't feed and clean up his shit. You're right, fam. But the 30% dog, okay, 70% dog, man. I sure would like to know how you come to that part, because I would like to know that way of thinking from other people. Even though I said I'm 50-50, because that's just where we're at with that. But, even at 30-70, because that puts a lot on the dog, man. And not much from the dog. So who makes, who's going to be responsible for the success at that point? For me, the reason I say the 50-50, because most of the time, anytime we took one out, we believed in the dog. And if we were doing what we were supposed to be doing, if we do our part, the dog was going to take care of his part. That was a shared responsibility. Y'all hear us talk about this every time, Mo push to that point. Anytime that we matched the dog, you had to beat all three of us. You had to beat the dog and me and Mo. We all shared that responsibility. My responsibility, wasn't as much as their responsibility because they're in the box. So for him, that's a 50-50 situation for Mo at the time, because he's in there. They're working together. The dog's listening, and he's doing the handling. He knows his dogs. When I always say me, I'm that extra. I'm like that 125%. I'm that extra 25% that gave us the edge. But it was always going to be a shared responsibility. But yeah, that's a good one right there, Double M, because 30% for me, it's not that much dog. I mean, let me ask you guys, just tell me, and put a 1 if for a yes and a 2 for a no. And we're on the bus. We're back in my days, and we're just gonna do this hypothetical thinking. Would you actually take a 30% dog to the box? Just wondering. Give me a 1 if you would take a 30% dog to the box. Give me a 2 if you would not. Because remember, how do you grade a dog and a dog man? We've done enough shows that have discussed many great dogmans, and the thing about history, you already know the outcome. You know what I'm saying? Let me see here. Y'all bear with me because I'm working my way down this list here. Let me see. Let's see here. Big shout out to the Rabbit Man. I see you, fam. Cannabis Cowboy said 70% dog. Okay. I feel you on that, Cannabis, because again, you got a 70% dog, 30% dog man. In reality, in a situation like that, you're putting a lot on the dog. Now, that takes us back to the Noriega Ajax situation. Did we have a 70% dog, 30% dog man? Because we know how that turned out. And that's giving the dog man the benefit of the doubt, because there's no doubt that he had a great dog. No doubt. So, yeah, I would give him that 70%. But is that a good example, the Noriega Ajax situation? Is that what a 30% dog man looks like? That's not a good look. That's all. Kyle said, it's the man. If not for 2 men, there wouldn't be a Stone City Mayday cross. Kyle, to be honestly real about that, we talk about the Mayday Stone City cross, but if you take the Mayday part out of it and the Stone City part out of it, and just take the breed itself out of it, put and just stick to the breed, that was done long before any of us really thought about it. And that's just being, if you're a historian, so I know we've talked about this, but that takes us back to that hybrid vigor you were talking about. We did a show on that. We talk about it because we're talking about 2 great kennels that couldn't stand each other. But if you really go back and just pay close attention, there was really no difference between the two dogs, bloodlines, you know. So that was almost a no-win situation. Maybe that's why it was able to produce over the years like it was able to, because it was basically the same thing. So yeah, I feel you on that.
Lined up because we have the dog.
It just lined up because we just happen to have the dogs. You know what I mean? If we, nobody gonna tell us what we ain't gonna do. So you know, whether they liked it or not, we was gonna do this anyway. You know, but when it came down to it, you know, it would have been stupid not to do it based on the way we were looking at it. You know, like I said, Mo told y'all, Stone City Tony, before he did it, he left Puerto Rico just to come to Florida and talk about it. You know, at what point did they get beyond that? I'm kind of glad that they did, because you know, it created some great dogs and had lasting power. So who do we give the shout out to? We got to give a shout out to any and everybody who was involved and who believed in it. Because it's sure as hell wasn't the performance of the dog that you know, caused them to have the beef that they had. You know, and to put that beef to the side and to make that happen, that's just two dog men who had two great programs, got beyond the bullshit and said, hey, let's make this happen, Captain. Let's see what we got going here. Let me see. Big shout out to the Road Runner Combine. He said at Union, great stock. You better boys ain't playing out there. Okay, on that question I asked earlier, Courtney was John Denbury, Recluse Bulldogs. Welcome to the Shark Tank, fam. Take care of that right quick. Welcome to the Shark Tank. Let me see if I can get that. Let me see here. Union County said too. Kyle said too. Big shout out to my man Cannabis Cowboy. He said, hey, damn, first time on the bus. And two. Appreciate that, fam. My man Double M said, not taking 30 over 50% dog. Guess I misinterpreted the question. Yeah, well, the question really was, would you take a 30% dog to the box? You know, a one, a yeah, and a two is no. So I got you, fam. Big shout out to my man, Mr. Chico Nicholas in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to Mr. O. Mr. O said the hound is a dependent and the man is an independent. But those two together and cross over to the box, motherfucker, historically. Yeah. Let's see here. Cannabis Cowboy said, I'll give him the best 30 he can get. Just by feeding right and putting the work in, that's 30. That 70 is gameless, 50 might not last. I'm going to tell you why the 50-50. Cannabis, Let me tell you why I be looking at the 50-50. Because at the 50-50, you're looking at the dog, first of all. I'm looking at 100% bulldog. He got it, and I'm talking about boxing this dog. Now, why would I make a choice to even waste my time with anything less than 100% bulldog? I'm not looking at the bulldog as a 50% chance of winning. I'm looking at the bulldog from a dog man's point of view, because remember, the dog can't make the decisions. I make the decision. We, the camp, we make the decisions. So automatically, we're going to always say, when we're climbing over that wall, we got 100% bulldog. We're not going to brag about his gameness. We're not going to brag about his style. We're not going to brag about anything. What we're going to brag about is the win. Because at that point in time, when we climbed over that wall, our intentions was to bring a 100% bulldog. The reason on my question tonight, when it comes down to that, where does the success lie at? Is it going to be 50% bulldog, 50% dog man? Do we share that success evenly? I feel like we do. Because that, you know, at some point you got 30% dog man, 70% dog. I mean, at what point when you go out and look on your yard, do you put that number, you know, put the percentage based on what you have on the yard? See, the success of the dog and the dog man, all that happens, you know, for me, prior to the box, and the results are going to be shown after come out the box. And that happens over time. One dog don't make no kennel, you know, worthy of saying, okay, I mean, does one dog, I mean, take IBM, Malik. Malik had one dog. One great dog. Does not mean he's less than a dog man than any other dog man, because he took that one dog and him and that dog, you know, they became legendary. Now, you can't take Malik and put him in the same category as, well, like Mayday or Stone City or Eminem, because these guys consistently created good dogs. But you can't take away, you know, Malik's ability to do the right thing and based on the right decisions on the dog that he brought out. So to me, that's a 50-50 for him, because the dog wouldn't have been shit without him, and he wouldn't have been shit without the dog. But you play with them numbers when you're dealing with a couple, I mean, like a camp, when we're dealing with a couple dogs. We might have one good dog and the rest of the yard is shit. You know, where is the success at for us? There is none. All they had was one dog. Everything else was bullshit. I mean, that's why it's important to understand where the responsibility lays when you're talking about success. And that's what we're talking about here in this question. The success, not the ability and the performance, but the success is always going to be based on what? Is it always going to be about the dog? Who's carrying the most? Or do we share that evenly? This is why I always, you know, I feel the 50-50. You know, I can't speak for everybody else. So that's why I put that link out there. If y'all need me to, I will bring that link back up. I'm going to turn this over to my man, Mo. It's on you, bro.
What up, everybody? What's up? What's up? Yeah, I'm stopping in here hanging out with y'all tonight.
What's up, everybody? All right, fellas, what's up now? I see you, Chico. What's up, Union County? What's up, Bam? I see y'all. Okay. Tell my, I'm coming right in. All right, y'all guys. You know, I've been talking about these dogs lately. I be coming up with these little things, like saying to y'all, these 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 growing hard bloodlines of dogs. Tonight, I'm gonna start with some newer ones, guys, that y'all really didn't know about. Some of the regular ones that I usually throw up, I'm gonna say them down there towards the end. I'm just gonna bring out some new ones that y'all didn't know about. Okay. And before I get started on that, you know, I got a lot of guys that be getting in touch with me, asking me where they can get a growing hard dog. Guys, I showed y'all 2 camps. They got growing hard dogs. I showed y'all 2 litters that got growing hard. A yellow dog, champion yellow dog. He doesn't have growing hard anybody. He is a product of growing hard. The other one, litter, Gville, got a litter. Okay? They got those are growing hard dogs. And to speak up on them, you know, they got good producing good dogs. Don't know what you're gonna do with them, but I can tell you this much: they're good dogs. You know, just trying to bring y'all up to date. My glasses. Where's my glasses? Okay, y'all. I know y'all done seen Gotta Eat. He been on the show before. He got some of them good dogs. I'm pretty sure, you know, a lot of them, these guys didn't know the story about Kunta and Little Matey during that time, you know, but he definitely added to the equation because there was several dogs that was produced out of that line with Little Mayday in it, aka Kunta. So we're gonna touch bases on some of them. Okay. Okay, let me start off with one. Let me see. Okay, go ahead.
Big shout out to my man Courtland Ross. He said, it won't let me change my answer, but I'll go with 70% dogman. Rosterman gave an example of how he told someone to pick up and let him condition, and when they ran it back, Rosterman won. So I'm gonna say it's more of the man. Oh, you know what? That's a good one right there, Cortland. That is a good situation. Because again, gotta remember now what you said. You gotta remember who the dog man is. You remember we talking about roster man. What changed? Only thing changed was the dog man. Now, the dog, we're still talking about the same dog. Okay? But we're talking about a more experienced dog man. To me, the dog in once it got in roster man's hand, that's a 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Prior to being in roster man's hands, it was 30% dog man, 70% dog. Because roster man proved the fact that the dog is still the same dog. So I got to give a dog his credit. It's in situations like that where you can honestly see the difference, because really the dog don't change. The dog was handled by a better dog man. So in a situation like that, we still, because in the other man's hand, he 30% dog man, 70% dog. You put it in roster man's hand, that's a 50-50 split right there, because all roster man did is took that 70% dog and added what he needed to add to it. And of course, he was going to get a better dog, because if roster man didn't believe in that dog, he would have never took that dog. He would have never been as confident to do what he said he was going to do. That's what a good dog man can do. Now, I'm not taking nothing away from the guy who had the dog before. I'm just saying that's a great example of showing you there is a difference, because I know there was Rossman couldn't do no more than what that dog had in it. That dog, Rossman seen something in the dog. That's my point. He's seen something in the dog. So, I got to give him his pub on that, because the dog don't really change, fellas. The dog is going to be the same dog all the way around. It's just a matter of who's handling the dog. The better the dog, man, the better your chances. And I try not to give more to the dog, because I'm taking a lot away from myself. So you got this for us, and I'm one of them 50-50s. And again, I only speak from my opinion, not knocking yours, but I'm taking the examples and just diving in, because you gave a great example of what basically the poll question was about tonight, because I do want to hear from some of those 30% dog men, 70% dog. Because again, let the numbers prove nobody's going to climb over the wall with a 30% dog. You can think you're the baddest dog man in the world, and you're not going to take a piece of shit and make him great if it's not in the dog. It just don't happen like that. Well, I've never seen it happen like that. And I've seen a lot. So I get back to you.
All right, y'all. This is gonna be one of the first ones we're gonna take a look at tonight. G-Ville, champion Ali the Great, 3-time winner. 1831-39. Okay. If you look at this pedigree, guys, what you're gonna notice, you're gonna see a lot of yellow and a lot of Mayday. Okay. Don't forget, Kunta is little Mayday. So you already know that's a son of Mayday right there. Okay. Now, if you look at everything else, you don't know. Let me just point out all this Mayday that's in these dogs. Look at the top. Champion, tip of the sword, champion Kalido. Waycon coming down off of the bumper stuff. Red to Dolly. That's the Little John stuff. Nobody's going to produce. You got Annabelle, daughter of Mayday. You know, and that is champion Annabelle. Okay. Producing champion Waycon. Double Dolly, still producing down off of Mayday. More Little John crossing to Chance and Felony. Felony, a hardcore dog. We already know that, you know, hardcore was good about crossing his red boy stuff back into the yellow dogs, which is the bottom side. Yellow crossed into some Jeep dogs, which we know yellow works good cross with Jeep. Red boy cross good is Jeep. With Jeep is good. Okay. I don't know what that means. I don't speak Spanish. Let me see if that means offspring. Yeah. Okay, the monkey coming off of Waycon produced this grand champion here, lost game, and he got champion Crunch, which I guess that would be him. Same dog. The key is just getting to the box. And when you got them crosses looking like that, man, they are uniform crosses. But if you notice, the names are familiar. You're talking about good dog man making these crosses, so you can expect that when you got good dog man making these crosses. G-Ville, smart move. When they made this move, they was banking this on Kunta cross because they're doing the backstreet true stuff. But in true reality, reason why it worked so well, look how close you got Little Mayday in there on top of all this other Mayday stuff. Okay? Those are the key, these little things here, as you're going to see these little factors throughout a lot of these pedigrees. Been going hard, ears just don't go nowhere. Look at the bodies. Okay. Hold on, guys. Let me put up another one. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. I'll try to keep up with them as I keep going. Huh. Here's another one here. Champion Savage, a 3-time winner, 1-time game loser. He beat champion Rolo on 145, but he lost game to King Kunta. Grand champion King Kunta. Okay, his top side, as you can see, Gigi, SJ, Cross. You see Black Girl, a lot of Mayday. Mm-hmm. Black's Mayday Girl. That's her name. Black's Mayday Girl. Sorry about that, guys. Make sure we get it right. Another GVO breeding. Double bred May 2. They go again. Little Mayday, aka Kunta. This breeding down here is a wild side cross with the Cunningham stuff, cross with Jeep. I have the actual breeding to Bowman's Lumber Girl, but she was a Jeep dog. Heavy Jeep cross right here. And that female was crossed with China Red, which, as you can see, we got him. We got him from the same guy who had the dog, Champion Bullet, behind. He actually is the one that made that breeding because he had Champion Outlaw at the time. And he gave my KP a pup, and he gave me that pup to raise. We lost to lock and load with him. So he was a two-time winner, but he was a one-time loser game. SJ was a good producer. At his bottom, I think we're gonna see. They go to Triple J's, Street Sweeper, the 5-time winner. You'll see some Garner dogs in here. Not too many people, my suggestion is when you start crossing the Garner stuff into the Mayday dogs, you gotta be smart. Gotta take the right ones. I have a homie in Ohio right now. He's got a real nice Garner dog, and he wants to cross it back into some real heavy Patrick. And the thing is, remember we just got done talking about Frisco and a Bolio dog. Okay, and my conversation to him was, you're not stepping outside the box. You just gotta understand that when you look at Frisco, gotta look at Frisco and build off of the Bolio inning. When you start talking about crossing it into Mayday stuff, because there's some parts of that Patrick that don't fit. Like Rick Rude and those dogs and Golden Boy, they're a different line of Patrick dogs. But it always helps when they cross those same dogs back into the Stalbert Patrick part of the dog. They got better dogs. And we'll get a chance to see, two dogs basically went into each other, out of the same line because they're, like I said, this dog lost to a line coming down off of King Kunta, was the dog that beat him. But King Kunta came down off of Kunta, who was down off of AKA Little Mayday. So he had Mayday in the top and bottom. Big shout out to RBG. What's up, fam? Thanks for the super chat, man. Okay, keep going. That's 2. I'm gonna put my boy up here, coming up with my boys next. That Gotta Eat Clan. They had a lot of good dogs. This right here is that Gotta Eat Champion Criminal. Again, aka Little Mayday. Crossed in some good boiled stuff. But here's what I liked about these dogs here. See, a lot of these dogs are going to take you back to the Patrick, and it's going to also take you into that Eli stuff. You know, that cross, almost basically like, you know, the Jeep. Eli stuff does work good with this stuff. Remember what I told you? That's why the Frisco stuff works good with the Eli stuff. So Frisco is. But they're good crosses. Mr. Rogers crossed over to Queen. Remember, did throw some good pups. She was a good dog herself. Rolly, he ended up in Ohio. That's the last time I saw Rolly. He was in Ohio. Patrick dogs. With some Eli. Almost the same thing as like Frisco. And it's a common thing when you see that. Because, you know, Frisco was a buckskin, but, you know, Frisco through those black dogs seem to produce good dogs. You know? Now, I did see this dog lose. He was a 3-time winner, but on his 3rd try, he did lose. So he's actually the 3-time winner, 1-time loser. He came back after that loss and won his championship. But nevertheless, he was still a good dog. Another one champion, 3-time winner, 1-time loser, Blood Raw. 1-3, lost to Rougher. Put that time in though. Come down off a Criminal again. See, they breed Little Mayday as a Boyles cross, and it's really the Mayday that's coming out in these dogs. I'm telling you. Because these dogs definitely have some ability. You can't get away from those damn Grand Champion ACers. I always say, man, you know the blood when you see it because you're going to have always see the Grand Champion ACers. Mayday, a lot of our dogs, when you see some of our dogs with these crosses like Baby and them, they have one ear would be a Mayday ear and the other one would be a red ace, Grand Champion ace ear. One ear would be a Mayday ear and the other ear would be, you know, that airplane ear like ace. You know, they had almost had that style of the average Bulls dogs, to be honest. You know, they got good matches, but they have bad days. You know, just like the Eli dogs. That's uncommon. You know, they all lose. The thing is, they're getting out there and they're working. And these dogs went into some stiff competition. So we ain't hiding nothing, putting it all out there on the table for you to see. More criminal stuff. Well, Raw, another champion. Got to eat Evil Eye. Again, what do you see? Little Mayday. So you got Little Mayday up here, you got Little Mayday down here. More of a total package when you double breed it. So this one right here was a hell of a good dog too. When you look at these things and you go back, you see you're gonna notice a lot of these dogs, you're gonna go back and you're gonna see polio. You know, just keep that part in the forefront. You know what I mean? Okay. Like you wanna check those messages? 'Cause I'm just going. If Mike jump in, guys, because he's reading the board here, just in case I'm not able to get to it. The back and forth stuff. Another one, MVP's champion Russia. Another good dog. Nice looking female, right? Again, another good dog. King Kunta, this is the dog that beat Champion Savage. Again, coming down off of Stone City Cross. Their Little Mayday. Another good cross. That ESK and Red Boy. Remember, I was telling everybody, you know, everybody be sleeping on that Red Boy Banjo cross or BB Red. Those were some hell of a dogs. The Red Boy Banjo dogs, the BB Red dogs. They was definitely something to contend with back then. I thought they were going to do more of it. You know, I didn't really see a lot of it, but the ones that I did see, I thought it was going to be the new thing. I really did. You know, just take certain kennels to stick to it and stay on it. Even back then, I always wondered, like I said, um, when they took and got on when it came and bought that little female from us, you know, not knowing back then, you know, what the purpose was. I always thought, you know, he was going to take, you know, our going hard stuff and cross it into the banjo stuff, you know. So I took that as, you know, I bred a little made to that little female on the way out the door. Okay. I'm just going down through them, guys. That one right there, that was Russia. Another champion. Again, there's a little Mayday crossed into some Stone City Mayday stuff. Then you got the bottom side here. You're going to take you back in there. You know, handicap. It's going to take you back to Patrick. I remember the Armed and Dangerous dog back then. He was a pretty good dog. And these are crosses, guys, that they were using back then. They were working pretty good, too. These dogs right here, when it all started crashing, it started becoming more competitive because these dogs was having a hard time stopping the Red Boy dogs. You know, I can tell you, the demise of the Boyles dogs, a lot of it started happening up there in the Michigan area. You know, back then we was calling them Yellow John dogs. You know, we was calling them Yellow John dogs, Red Boy dogs. But that's when the demise started happening. Made for Greatness Kennels. Big shout out to you, fam. Thank you, man. Blessings, twins. Hey, man. Blessings to you, bro. Thank you. Again, that's champion Red Games Shidachi. Todochi. I don't want to dog beating up the name now. There's another one. Skeezer. Champion Skeezer. Coming down off a little Mayday. Another Mayday dog. That's actually Mayday to Red Ace. That's what this is on the top. Going back into again. Anytime you see Stone City, what do you think is going to happen? Anytime you see those Mayday dogs crossed into anything with Stone City, you're going to get production. We've seen enough of that. And you notice, you know, that when you cross those crosses with that, you're not going to get a whole lot of losses like you would pop up with those Boyles dogs. We have more consistency with the Mayday being crossed with the Stone City dogs. You know, there was a definite consistency where, you know, you can put these dogs in that Boyles line where, you know, you start seeing them losses popping up. You know, these dogs didn't lose. Mayday Stone City dogs, it was very seldom you caught one out there losing. Now, I always said, you know, the Rick Rude dogs and, you know, the Golden Boy dogs, they're a little different. You know, when they do start showing up, they're showing up because of the established shit. Where we seen established shit coming through, we're going to see it coming through Buck. Mayday. No. So you see these dogs, you know, again, another champion, Skeezer, coming off a little Mayday. Here's one champion, Little Dirty. A little tiny female. She looks like the dog right there at the beginning of the show. Do you see the red ace ears? Remember, May 2 produced one off of Jordan, one crossed back in the segment, looked just like her. You see him at the beginning of our show. You see him all the time at the beginning of the show up there. The little brindle dog with the white head. That dog came down off of May 2, crossed into Grand Champion Sage stuff. Again, another champion off of Little Mayday. Cross with the Bulls cross. Jose's Bull, another good dog. There's my boy LaFons up there in New York. Good dogs. Jose's Bull. What do you see? I said, the only time you're going to ever see it really work, you're going to find her, these little factors. Red Baby. Why? Because Red Baby's going to have the stabber in. Dirty Mary. Dirty Mary got stabber in her. She's going to carry it. Those little things do make the difference. They do. Yeah, good friend. Vaughn, been on him for many years. Another good producer. Again, they're little red ace ears. Okay. Keep going. Oh shit, what happened to me? Okay, I'm back. Y'all, I'm just going through them, man. I hope I ain't going too fast. This one here, champion split personality. 37, 142, 36. You gonna win them short, you gonna win them long. 29, 30, 30.5, 30 and a half. Little dog. But he's got Mayday in. Another dog coming down off of SJ. And that breeding, you can almost say that's two litter. Those dogs, like, I think they would have been litter mates. Check to make sure. Yep, Savage. Savage and split personality were litter mates. Coming down off of SJ. Another GBO dog. Y'all see that, right? I'm just trying to go through them. I got to them yet. Those are ones we commonly see. I'm bringing up ones that they haven't seen. Okay, keep it going. Heavy made another going hard. A lot of going hard dogs in that line. Another dog coming off of SJ. Okay, SJ. So he was a good producer, you know. Again, see how they still at putting that red boy on top. Okay. 22, 55, 305. That's gameness. I like this little female. I ain't gonna sleep on her. And again, what do you see in her down in there? The old Mayday. Remember, this stuff up here is the same stuff you see in Yellow Dog. Remember, Champion Yellow Dog got this same cross in him. But now you see it being crossed down there with the little Mayday with these bulldogs down here. Again, showing you, again, that it worked. Everybody stay. Keep another one. This one coming off of Baby. Another going hard breeding cross with Champion Orca off of Barracuda. There's another one coming off of Baby, which was Yellowbird. Again, this is coming off of Mac. Mayday being bred back into his champion daughter. That is Champion Annabelle. This is Champion Annabelle down here. You're going to notice that Stone City Mayday cross. She had a Little May brother. Hold on. Little May brother. You notice the power in these dogs, where they be, their body is. I just think there was just something that, you know, the Buck, I think Buck has a lot to do with these dogs' body. On top of Mayday and them, I think that little Tater just brought body to these dogs. You know, they like built gladiators. He just looked like an oversized baby. Yeah, he got the Mayday ears. Joe Baby. I'm just show y'all a quick picture of Baby. See, this is what I was talking about. See the Mayday ear right there? There's the going hard ear. And it's funny because I when I say that, I laugh about it because I got a puppy from Gville coming down off of the old going hard stuff, got an ear just like that. He got a going hard ear and he got the Mayday ear. It's another champion. Little May to Yellowbird. Another Gville dog, FTWDTKS, that's still Gameville, 50-50 combine, all that still Gameville dogs. There's Champion Skins. Champion Skins lost to Lil Mayday. I mean, no, not Skin. I'm talking about Wacko. Wacko lost to Lil Mayday. Skin was a badass dog. I love Skins. You know, he had that Mayday in him, so, you know, he was every bit a bulldog. You get them boys coming out of Texas. They came all the way up to Texas to get bulldogged over. They really thought they came in really thinking they was going to win. They just didn't know they was going to run into one of the baddest little dogs. And I think it was a big part of that came down. Not only did Wacko have ability, you know what I mean? He lost to Little Mayday. Another great breed. Another thing I like about them is they threw a fair share of females. You know, that was a good thing that I noticed about the going hard dog. They did throw females that would take you through there. Okay. A lot of y'all, if you know the Screaming Demon dogs, Screaming Demon was double bred fatty girl. She's the key factor in those Screaming Demon dogs. And she's a producer, as you can tell. That's Champion Lil Wiggles. Keep it going. Somebody got a question. Well, Mike doing that. Let me go ahead and address the question for him, Mike. K Walk, he said, howdy, salute and much respect. Why didn't y'all cross into the snooty from the old GSK stuff? Well, at the time, if I was going to do any crossing with the snooty stuff, I would have used judo. Judo would have been the perfect cross. Judo was coming down double bred off a snooty Molly B cross. I would have loved to have made that breed. But at the time, by the time we got Little Mayday and Brat and all those dogs, and Little Mikey and Judah were stolen. They got stolen the same day while me and Mike was locked up, throwing the guy in some grease. Hey, it was the day we getting out of jail. A dude got out of jail before us. We were trying to be secretive. We didn't want nobody to know we was locked up. But once somebody seen us, and sure enough, as soon as that brother got out of jail, those dogs came up missing. Judo and Little Mayday. So we would have loved to have made that cross. I ain't afraid to make it now with the Frisco stuff. Some of those Frisco snooty crosses, yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to do it. Just get the right dog to do it with, you know? That would be a good point. But that was the only reason. Okay, let's keep it going. As y'all remember, I'm still going through champions, right? Still pulling up champions. There's Loghead, another Gville champion. I think this dog was actually a 4-time winner. He got snatched up in a raid. Another good breed. Again, you see that bottom, that hard gut, that Luke can being bred into those that red boy stuff. Smart thing. Bring it on and still Gameville. You know, they have many names. All of that stuff is still Gville. I think they finally settled in with Gville. Another nice dog. Another one, four-time winner. Jackson 38 special. Another dog off of May 2. Crossed into some 357 Stone City. Guaranteed, I mean, to me, that's the prolific of those crosses. I just believe you got the right Mayday Stone City dogs, you're going to get it. And it don't even have to be necessarily Stone City. It could be 357. Macho Buck. You got to remember, Yellow Dog got Macho Buck in him, top and bottom. I think it all works when you cross it right. You won't know until you let it grow up and find out. And we're just not pulling up champion pairs that work. Max Champion Jimmy, four-time winner. "2013 Dog of the Year." See his bottom? Back girl. Seen her before. Heavy going hard cross, heavy. Like I said, FTWDTK is Gameville. Yeah, Ace Hershey, Gameville. Okay. This one is Champion Gameville's Little Jimmy. Champion Little Jimmy. Little G, I'm sorry. Little G. My bus. Champion Gameville Little G. Another one coming down off of May 2 on the bottom. Cross, the same old cross. You see that little cross right there? You see the red boy cross? See it there, and you see it down in here. Then you see that the Cool Buck Junior stuff, which is Jeep. Come down off of May 2. Okay, now I'm finishing out. Everybody seeing her. BBK, what a day. Another one coming down off of me too, and baby. Don't forget, Sassy Girl produced all these dogs. She was the bitch. This was the Mayday Stone City Cross right here that produced her. One of the most producing the dog. Remember, she was the first. See, she is all in. That's little Mayday right there. That's champion little Mayday, aka Kunta. Well, I got to go get my girl. The nut. Champion the brat. 72 Mayday. $36, $35. Don't she look big for a dog? 35, 36, 37. Dog had featherweight bones. Wasn't a dog her size when they got in that box with her. And you imagine just getting dominated by just a nut. That's all I can tell y'all with her. It was just nothing gonna stay in there with her. She was a bigger dog, stronger dog, and just was a nut. Very, very, very aggressive. Just like her brother. Very aggressive dogs. They did not play. Always felt it was what made our dogs a little different than the average the other Mayday dogs was, I think it was just the red ace in them. That Grand Champion Ace stood out. Because these dogs were very, very rough. And they do some very rough dogs too. I might have to step outside the Mayday stuff for a minute, y'all. I gotta put our other going hard champion up in here. We don't talk too much about her, but I always gotta bring her in because she was a hell of a bulldog. The only dog that just kept robbing that best in show from Brett. She take the best in show in game and show her style. You know, she had that bunny ear. She had a Mayday ear and a Stone City ear, a red ace ear, but she was a red boy dog. She was red boy based on all this. But like I was telling a lot of people, you know, all you see is red boy, but there was an out. This is the out right there. She was triple red Whistler Jr., but this was her out. Look what she had in her out. That's what made her a bad bitch. That's what carried all that red boy. It kept hanging around. Just like it did with Red Ace in them. Same dog you see in red as you see in Pretty Mama. Look at all that Zebo. Alligator. Ark. Kingfish. Okay, now we're going to get into the 2 grand champions. We already showed y'all the all wham. Baby was the all wham. Grand champion Ruby. 1 or 2 grand champions came down off the stuff. Still another Stone City made a cross. You got one more. Okay, yeah. This is actually a grand champion, King Kunta. He lost due to a handling foul. Dog to lose to a handling foul is not a loss against his grand championship, if you guys did not know that. Grand champion loses his title when he get picked up, jumps the box. Me, I refereed 2 matches where there was a handle on a dog that was later on went and 1-5 that he did not lose their title based on the handler and the foul. Handler foul outs really don't count against grand champions. Grand champions should lose their title when they lose the title, not the handler. Even when it comes down to cheating, get disqualified. Get disqualified is not an end to it. So, you know, come on now. Again, AKA Little Melee. What you find in there, Stone City crossing with that stuff is going to always work. And it got producing power. Chico Lopez says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Chico Nicholas. Sorry about that, man. I want to hurt your name like that. Chico Nichols. Chico Nicholas says, you think Tom Gardner got a real snooty blood? I mean, Johnny man, I would have to say, yeah. Well, I mean, he's down there in the Carolinas where Snooty was. You know, that's my thing. You know, got to remember that. He's down there where Snooty was. They were all good friends at one point in time. You know what I mean? He, Coulter reminds me of Buck Rogers a lot. And Baby, same colors. Okay, now we went through them kind of fast, guys, but that was a total of 24 champions that we just went through. That's including the grand champ, the 2 grand champions. No, Mike giving me a pedigree to put up here, guys. So step away from here for a minute. I'll get myself back on here, Mike. Always forget how to do that. I just clicked all the way out. There you go. Yeah. Okay, Mike got a pedigree. He wants me to throw up. Somebody sent in a pedigree. Here it comes. Now, that ain't counting the 2-time winners and the 1-time losers, guys. I mean, the 1-time winners and the 2-time winners. You know, there's a whole bunch of them. You know, and yeah, I'm not afraid to put the losers up. So they did have their share of loss. They did have their share of losses. But when it comes down to it, do the math, they still fell within the 90% thing. And they have more dogs that got picked up games, just as many dogs that got picked up games as they have losers. At one time, there was 14 total losses with additions. They got up to like 18. Okay, my boy. Oh, shit. Hold on, go back. 919. Bando for life. This is your pedigree here, bro. We're gonna do a bust down. I like the Black Angel dogs. They're real nice. These guys right here was pretty good. This kennel right here, these guys, they had some real nice dogs. But I'm gonna break it down here on the bottom. Frank White stuff, the heavy Chinaman. Yeah, go look at Chinaman. I always keep telling you guys what to keep back to in the Chinaman. Eli stuff and the snooty stuff. Still carver dogs. That's my point. Arch Missy, Boomerang, Littermates. Remember that. Artemis Boomerang littermates. Eli Cross. That's like seeing him like with Bully Son. Bully Son, Copper Dog. Look at it. Gotta look at it for what it is. Bully Son is the bottom side of G. Gotta remember, Eli is in Mayday too. We have G and a lot of our dogs. Snooty is just you know, gotta remember Snooty. When you come talk about Snooty, it's almost like you know, you gotta think of Arts Missy and Boomerang. They were both producers. Time you got producing line of dogs, which is Arts Missy and Boomerang producing dogs, you're gonna have that production in their pedigree. All them, all them, all them, all them. You know, there is I believe in the trait of registered marriage. The best dog, but when you got a dog that can produce, coming from production line of dogs, I mean, I've shown you several ones. I can use Barracuda, I can use Mayday, I can use Luke Kane. You know, I can go back to Baby and go back and show you where, you know, I can use all these dogs. There is a genetic strain where you got a line of these dogs, all M's. Remember the whole bottom side, back side of Grand Champion Ace will register marriage. Zebo Beta Tommy Spider. We taking that and we crossing that back in to Mayday, come down the line of all Williams. Cross it with Stone City, coming down the line of all Williams. You know what I'm saying? Come down. Well, I mean, if you're gonna look at it, there's proof. If you're gonna be trying to breed, those are kind of factors you got to look into. You see a line of dogs that's going all Williams, that they may have that genetic production of registered marriage in them. That means these dogs can produce, especially if you can catch it on the bitch side. That gives you choices to breed your bitch and test it. You know, that's for real. You know, the Chinaman, he still, when you go to break, when you go to get there and start digging in, you know, he produced Frisco. Okay. Keep back to Frisco. It's Tuffy. Tuffy just shot those numbers up because you're already dealing with an all-in line of dogs right here. A straight line of them. That was the setup. And then you got Frisco all around. That's a whole list of that. You know, that Tuffy just added more cream because she made battle dogs. You know, you're gonna find Stabber in there. You know, you're gonna find him in there. For those who don't know, you know, those are little key things that I look at, especially when I look at the dogs and you start going through them. What did Jones City have in common? They had a lot of dogs in common. Why did they both produce? Because they had a lot in common. Same with Frisco. We did a show on that. All these dogs that had all them all wins, they sitting right there on the top of your register of merit list. You know what I mean? Every damn one of them had a row of register of merits, which made them able to produce register of merit themselves. Things for you guys to think about when you're making these crosses and you're making these breedings. That takes a lot of guesswork out, that's for sure. Can't guarantee everything, but I honestly believe you can make the percentages make a difference. If I can get percentages out the deal, then I may be on the right track. How do you know? Well, there ain't but one way to find out. You know what I mean? One way to find out. Okay. Am I back? Yeah, back. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys. I'm just gonna go down through the list. If y'all guys got any questions or anything like that. I hear very few of you guys. I need to go back and check out the old show where I had Tony Wade on. I hear a lot of you guys talk about Harry. You know, but, you know, I knew Harry through Tony Wade. Again, I always say, I know a lot of you guys have experiences with him. I can tell you this much: Tony Wade is definitely a dog man. You know what I'm saying? And I can tell you, he had a lot of winners. He had his array of champions as well. And I think, I think Harry had a lot to do with Tony's success because Tony didn't have a lot of money. So I can tell you now that a lot of his dogs was backed by Harry. And when they had a disagreement, they had their little friendly matches. But Harry had a lot of confidence in Tony because he wouldn't have backed Tony as much as he did if he did. And Mike said my sound was terrible. Was it like that the whole show? Okay. But come on, guys. Anybody? I never liked the snooty dogs, but they did make an impression. Well, I can tell you, I think Snooty produced some good dogs. I liked the Snooty Red Boy cross. I liked that Champion Wade dog, Tate dog. I really did. Wade's Champion Tate, I liked him. I think when he bred Rennie to Tate, that they produced a Champion too. Rennie was down off of that wild side dog, Renegade. So I think they produce pretty good dogs. I just think, you got to continue the good breeding. That's all that is. If you don't continue the good breeding and a lot of the calling, because, I think what happens in most aspects is when you start going to the public and you start selling dogs, you start breeding dogs to sell, you're taking a lot out of your yard, where the yard turns into a commercial yard instead of a battle yard. You gotta admire the kennels that are able to continue to win and still serve the public. My thing is, if I'm gonna be winning and I'm serving the public, my expectations should be the expectations that I had on the yard going off the yard. I don't want to be in a position where only the twins dogs is winning and nobody else can win with them. What's going on? And those are the things that I bring to people's attention. You know, those are just things you got to bring to the attention. If your shit is legit, you should be able to put your shit in any real dog man's hand. And they should be able to take your shit if they're following the trend. Like me, I follow the trend. I wasn't going to try to redo the Stone City shit. I wasn't trying to redo the Mayday dogs. I wasn't trying to redo none of that. I'm trying to get what they were getting. Winnings. Now, if I can win with them, and so many other people could take the Mayday dogs and win with them, you got to admit that this shit backs itself up. You got to say the same thing with Chinaman and Frisco. Yeah, Frisco got a lot of his dogs. He ran numbers back in the day because a lot of those dogs was outside the country. But we can't use that as an excuse now because a lot of those dogs was outside the country winning, got imported back into this country and made Frisco more of a great dog based on the dogs that were winning with Frisco in them. Better down there, better than Chinaman. Definitely better than Chinaman. Why? Because you added the stabber to him. That's why Frisco produced better dogs than Chinaman, even though he came down off of Chinaman. Okay, y'all, look, we're going into hold on. Okay, we're going back to the poll, fellas. Now, the poll says, how important is the dog man to the success of the game, American Pit Bull Terrier success? We got A, 50% dog man, 50% dog, 68%. 30% dog man, 70% dog got 15%. 30% dog, 70% dog man got 11%. And then we got 6% that said it doesn't matter. I'm still like Mike on the 60%. We had 84 people that voted too. Thanks for all you voters. Okay, thanks for all you voters. My personal opinion is the majority. For the guys that went with the majority, their concept of thinking is basically a good direction. For the guys that went 30% dog man, 70% dog, I can understand that too. Because you could be a half-ass dog man with a real good dog, but in that 30%, what happens when he run into a 50-50? It's going to be a problem. That's why I looked at Noriega. Like Mike said against Ajax. I can't even get that dude 30%. So that would be a little disadvantage because he wouldn't even get 30% out of me. He only had one dog. Hadn't even never done a dog before. Yeah, you're going to take this dog that you bought because you had the money. And you went in there thinking it was going to be 100% dog and your 90% the dog and 10% the dog man. Well, don't forget that 10% is what conditioned the dog. That's why he lost. 10% dog man, 80%, 90% dog couldn't win a match. When he thought match that he should have won. So I even look at it in the numbers of that 30%. That means you're 20% being screwed up because give me some of that off the dog and bring it over here to me. And so we can make it 50-50. You need a 50-50. Because if I can't give him the best of me on 100% all around when we walk into that goddamn square, then we already at a disadvantage. You know, so I believe that the dog man is just as important, not only when you walk into that square, but prior to getting there. Prior to getting there, take a real dog man to get one there. That means he got to be able to take care of it, groom it, raise it, school it, call it, and then do it. You know what I'm saying? It does matter. Okay, I mean, for you 6%ers, is how in the world can it not matter? I mean, that's like the numbers is like it don't matter. If it don't matter, what matters then? That would be my question to the 6%ers. If it didn't matter whether the dog man or the dog, okay? If it doesn't matter, I would like to know one great dog out there. One great dog out there that carried it all on his shoulders by himself. Or one great dog man that did it without any help from the dog. And you're going to tell me that the dog was able to win when it was all on the handler himself. See, if it doesn't matter, that 6%, you got to fill it in. If it didn't matter, then what does matter to make the success? You got to put it somewhere. Where does it go? Or it don't matter. Well, what matters then? That would be my question to those guys that say it doesn't matter. Then tell me what matters for the dog man and the dog to be a success. What was the key factor if the dog or the man mattered? You know, good question, good point. Big shout out to Pit Dog. Why you don't like the snooty dog? I heard Garner Santos was a monster. Oh, who's that? War Eagle? Oh, Chico Nichols was out in War Eagle. Why you don't like the snooty dog? I mean, look, if they had been breeding Snooty, because Snooty did throw some good dogs. We had one. We had Blood. We had BA. You know, they was good dogs. Judo. He was double bred Snooty cross with Molly B. He was a hell of a dog. You know, Champion Tate was a hell of a dog. He was snooty. Thor was a snooty dog. He was a bad boy. Smeller was a 2-time winner. He was a nice dog. He threw some good dogs. Snooty just played a factor in the game. Maybe he didn't stand out as much, but one thing we can definitely say for sure, Snooty came up on Arch Missy, registered married, little mate to Boomerang, registered married, producer of great dogs, both registered marriage, both producing registered marriage. How can you not like them? You're going to find Snooty in Chinaman. How can you not like them? You're going to find Snooty in Frisco. He's part of that line of registered marriage with that registered marriage genetic. And yes, Santos does produce good dogs, but it's based on what he has in his pedigree. Those are key factors. You know, you don't even know you got a great dog until he's starting to win. You don't even know he's a great dog at all unless they're doing it in the box. Back in my time, we don't even discuss anything other than those winners. That's why you didn't see me put 2-time winners up there tonight. You didn't see me put the 1-time winners up there tonight. What you saw me put up was 24, 25 champions, including the grand champions. Okay? That's a lot of dogs. You know, it does matter. And if you was paying attention, you'd notice the majority of them. What out of them 24, 25 dogs, what was the key major factor that was to their wins? The way they were bred, or the people who had them? What do you think? One thing for damn sure, being it was just a night of nothing but champions being put up there. One thing for damn sure. There's no way we can say it was more than 50, it was anything less than 50-50. Because the dog man plays a major part. Who's the one making the decision to bringing them in? The dog man. Who's the man responsible for putting the dog together to bring him in? The dog man. Once he walks into that square, who's it on now? The dog. Half the job was done when we stepped over into the box. The other half, with a little help from me, going to complete his 50% of the deal. You know, if I got roids in him, hey, that's based on my 50% on what I'm doing for the dog. Calvin said, give me some the grand champion chart over Snooty any day. Well, yeah, but I think even a lot of the snooty dogs, I mean, you can't take nothing away from Snooty because he was a registered American. You know, I'm gonna say this, and I ain't trying to dig into y'all ass because y'all already know I'm gonna say something slick that y'all don't like to hear me say. But for everybody that wants to hate on like Kyle will say art over Snooty, I'm gonna tell you like this: any dog that can produce and establish a registered mare title under their name, I will take any day. Any day, I would love to have one of them on my yard. It is not easy to be able to stand there and say that I got a registered mare on my yard, let alone even say a champion or a grand champion. Those are feats that's not easy to achieve. It's so easy to stand outside the box and make those comments. But if you were really on that railroad track or on this bus with me trying to take that ride, you would find out, fellas, there's a lot of y'all out there that's been trying for years and ain't got that far. With all the breedings and the work you're putting in and the people that you know, that you weren't able to achieve it because it's not as easy as you think. It's easy to talk about, but it's not easy to do. You know what I'm saying? So that comes out of a mouth of a person who had I always wanted to be able to let one go and see what it felt like to see one scratch for a championship. You know, I didn't do nowhere close to what G-Ville did with those dogs after they left my yard. But they learned and was able to move forward and did a whole lot more with a whole lot to work with. Where they did things that I didn't do because I wasn't into making breedings. I was into trying to play. Have my moments, and that was cool. But the dogs took on their own life after that, and thank God they was in the right hands. I mean, shout out to BBK, shout out to Jamie Long, shout out to Gameville, shout out to the dogs that Gameville put out there. You know, that people they were able to do it. Shout out to Most Wanted. They were able to take the shit and run with it, you know. And Black Ice, you know, he's another one because he got on that bandwagon too. Mad, M-A-D, he got on that bandwagon too. They were all great dog men. They were. Look at Cuban Missile Link and the work they put in. What did Pretty Mama and Roblox Tater have in common in their pedigree? Well, let's look up Tater. Because Tater, she came from Kenny Island. That was the dog that Mr. T took from Kenny Island that day he took when we went back to his yard and took her. That was the dog he took. And I seen her win all three. Well, she won 4, but I know I saw her go 3 times. Champion Tater. And she was a bad bitch. I'm going to look her up. And we'll look at her pedigree. Okay, what in the world did I just do? Okay, here's Champion Tater's pedigree. She has Debbie Phil's Kizzy in her. I get Mama right quick. It's still showing that up there. Okay. Okay, here's Mama. Now, remember, I've said the difference between these dogs right here is right here, Miss Kitty. Well, for y'all, I'm letting you know, the Brewers, W. Phil's Kizzy, she was a Florida dog. I actually, in one of my old phones, a guy in Florida sent me a picture of Kizzy. He used to own Kizzy right down here in Florida. He sent me a picture of her, and it was in one of my old phones, and I never, I cannot find that phone to get that picture of her off. But yes, these two right here, Kizzy and Pretty Mama, and there's Kizzy and Tater. And remember, you can look at the saloon dog and look in the bottom of Tornado being crossed into the Hetrick stuff is what produced that champion bitch that created Tornado. Champion Butch was a producer himself. But yeah, that double Zebo was definitely a key. Cross with that Art and Kingfish. They got Zebo in our pedigree. We got Zebo being bred to Tommy Spider. That's the bottom half of the Grand Champion Ace. Ace's mother was off of Tommy Spider and Zebo. So you see these are crosses that we see are making battle dogs. Candy is a Kingfish dog. And for those who know the deal, the Nebbit dogs are really old family red-nosed dogs coming down through the Kobe. As you see familiar names. You find these familiar dogs, you will find them in the old family red-nosed dogs. You know, and I think that's where the clicks come from, you know. I think that they were, when they made these crosses, this Mason made those crosses, they were like, they were making really some smart crosses. But as you can see, you keep bumping into Mickey P's, the Lightner stuff, see all that Lightner Mickey P stuff? They were literally crossing them old family reds back into each other. You know what I mean? The Lightner dogs, these are dark Lightner dogs, I would think they were. The very same dogs that Power were using to create that bottom side of Tornado. That Hetry TNT were Lightner dogs. Yes. That Hetry stuff on the bottom of Tornado, they say Hetry TNT, Hetry dogs, they were, Hetry dogs are Lightner dogs. Battle dogs. Battle crosses. That was a good one, man. Okay. Okay, we got a question coming up. Shout out to Small Time. Put you back up here, baby boy. He said Mayday was bred as much into the same amount of bitches as Frisco. Who you think would have produced better? Well, it's obvious that Frisco was bred a lot. But if you was looking at the amount of times that Mayday was bred, he was bred a lot too. Based on what they say. I'm going to just tell you like this. The Mayday dogs that I knew that was bred right here in Florida. Right here in Florida. If these were the same, if this was the same Mayday that was producing the dogs that produced in Florida, if he had got over there in Ecuador and was producing like that over there in Ecuador, which he wasn't, which brings the question, was they really Mayday dogs? He would have blew Frisco out the water and Frisco couldn't have never caught up. Because I know that the breedings that were done right here in Florida, you had 17 champions coming out of these dogs, 17. And Frisco was winning overseas before he was winning in the United States. So we got to look at a lot of dogs of Frisco. You know, if you're looking at Frisco back in our time, Frisco was a good producer, but guess what? To the dog game, we was not impressed with Frisco. We wasn't impressed with Frisco to the point that, you know, Tom was catching hell. He was catching hell from the Journal because guys was saying, hey, these Frisco dogs ain't winning shit over here. Yet he's coming up on the RM list with all these champions, and ain't none of these mugs coming out of the United States. So that's, like I said, Frisco was the reason that the Sporting Dog Journal started using the asterisk on dogs from overseas. Because the United States, we feel like our dogs was way better, and to be comparing their dogs to our shit in our journal, you know, it needs to be stipulated. Because you can't keep comparing that shit over there to this shit that's going on over here, especially when that shit over here wasn't doing what it's doing now. Okay, what it's doing now is a big difference than what it was doing back then, y'all. And a lot of that because the dogs was being imported back into the country and being put back into circulation with DOGMEN. Yeah, if you have straws on Frisco, just imagine if you had straws on Mayday. Remember, Mayday, he's tied up there with Mayday. And Mayday didn't do half the breedings that Frisco did. So that should be a big point right there in itself. For Frisco just to be there on there. And we're still talking about those all-M's, part of them all-M champions that were overseas getting these championships to the point that we had to put asterisks by them. You start taking off those dogs that got the asterisks by them, Frisco falls below all those dogs. Remember that point. You take the asterisks off, but cause Jack to start putting asterisks based on what Frisco was doing. Why he put them asterisks there? You take all those asterisks off and make it a United States thing, Frisco falls down off that list quick. Even with all the straw breeds that he made, he still wouldn't be up there with Mayday, or Jeep, or Yellow, or Buck. Okay, there's a difference. Even with all those straws and breedings, he's still up there with Mayday. You know what I mean? With all the help in the years, he still got no further than Mayday. Some people think they even took over Jeep, but again, you take off them asterisks, you wouldn't have the same dog sitting up there that high. And these are facts. But you can't take nothing away from them because, hey, when they did start making their way back through here, oh, it was definitely trouble. Any more questions, guys? Let me see what I'm looking at. Pit Dog said you can say that about a lot of dogs. Who do you think would have produced better dogs? Look, let me tell you something. If go back up here and fix this here. Did I pass it? It's not up there. Why am I putting it back? No, I was down here. I was right there on Pit Dog. Pit Dog say you can say that about a lot of dogs. And he's right. You can say that about a lot of dogs. You know, I can say that about Buck. I can say that about Jeep. Imagine if Jeep has straws. Imagine if Mayday has straws. Imagine if Yellow Buck has straws. Imagine if Buck has straws. I mean, years of breeding after these dogs was long gone. You know what I mean? Frisco would not be on that list. Because these, I mean, imagine if we was to grab the Mexican Mayday dogs or the Puerto Rican and the Virgin Island and the Mexican Stone City dogs. Imagine that. Imagine if all those dogs had straws and they had just as many as Frisco. I honestly believe, and this is by fact, that they all produce great dogs. Okay? And for Frisco to be up there amongst those great dogs, you got to give him his credit. But we do have to put an asterisk by Frisco because Frisco got straws. And then Frisco got a lot of overseas wins under his record of registered marriage. So, you know, there's a lot of things in there that, you know, that we can still complain about when it comes to Frisco. Then we got to remember the dilemma that was going on during that time, even with the APBTA not even wanting to register no more Frisco dogs because APBTA didn't even know if the shit was legit. So Tom at one time had problems with a lot of verifying shit with the APBTA in the journal. You know what I mean? See, a lot of today, through years passing on by, all that controversy is gone, and he can stand there and still maintain the Garner dogs because, hey, how can you not when they doing something they wasn't doing back then? A lot of years later, guess what? They got it right. Because the line itself are great dogs. But it took it a while to get right. And you want to know the truth, when the brothers got their hands on them, like True Colors and a lot of other brothers out there that was grabbing them Frisco dogs that made those lines, that Frisco line great, those were brothers that was doing that. I hate to bring that to everybody's attention. Fat Bill included. Fat Bill had a lot of good dogs when he started injecting his Chinaman and stuff in there. Guess what? A lot of them brothers had them Fat Bill dogs crossed with that Chinaman stuff that was going out here making business. See, in the 90s, we changed a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of shit changed. The Latinos and the brothers really controlled the dog game, flat out, plain and simple. We give Gowner and Ozzy and my man over there that had Ajax, we got to give them theirs. We got to give them theirs. Russian Bill, hey, these dudes, we still had great dogmen out there. Beach Boys, Fat Bill. I mean, these dudes was holding their own, but I'm telling you now. Yeah, can't forget Kenny Allen, Ricky Jones. But these guys were stepping into the fast lane, which they created, we just invaded. They created it and we invaded it. We put a whole nother level to that fast lane shit. That's why you see so many of us having great dogs that, you don't see us in a book, but we need to be. Body Snatcher was another great one. He didn't play. Sammy Arab and them, they had great dogs. Pizza Man, them, they had great dogs. When I say the Latino, I'm talking about the Geno boys, Havana boys, Cuban Missile. I mean, when you start doing the math on top of what Victor was doing, don't forget my boy Tom Ratliff and them guys, hey, they created the fast lane and we invaded it. And that's the truth. Because if we didn't invade it, we wouldn't be talking about our dogs. We still be talking about they dogs. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of guys can go out there and say, hey, we had the opportunity. Yeah, we beat Ricky Jones before. We beat Kenny Allen before. There's brothers out there that can sit there and say that. Don't forget Sniper. We're jigging them. Shady Days, them boys. Hey, they like I said, got invaded. Tom from Pro Set. These guys came in. But guess what? They were getting their dogs from where? The Latinos and them brothers. You know what I mean? Not making it a color thing. I'm just saying you don't see these names in books. You don't see these stories about none of their dogs. I mean, we screaming still, walk them all. We still screaming David Tent. We still screaming Tom Gardner. You know, we still screaming Kenny Allen. These are the names that I still hear bouncing around. You know what I mean? Y'all using these names. Eli Dog, Roy Bulldog, Ronnie Boyles, Pat Patrick. These are the names y'all still slinging around. Them names wouldn't be nothing at all. Because the Latinos and the brothers was what made those dogs famous. Yes, sir. The game changed in the 90s and has been able to progress from the 90s on through. You know, not making it a color thing, but let's keep it real. We still talking about names, and we're not talking about the individuals that kept those names alive. Like Gameville did for going hard. Like Jamie Long did. Jamie Long was white. Look what he did with Going Hard Dogs. Look what Gameville did with Going Hard Dogs. Look what Most Wanted did with Going Hard Dogs. Look what BBK did with Going Hard Dogs. I mean, hey, look what MVP did with them, and they didn't even know they was dealing with Going Hard Dogs. Yeah, they might have, because, you know, MVP now, they did something while everybody else was on that Boyles run. They stepped out there and stepped on that Stone City shit like somebody told them something. Because they wasn't really Boyles men. They went right into the Stone City Mayday cross and boom. They took Kunta and brought him into the Mayday shit like they knew something. And maybe they did. But they had more success with that Kunta stuff than anybody else did. Proven fact. That ain't a statement just coming out. That's a fact. And look at Gameville, even though they didn't even know, but you got Kunta all up in their line of dogs and wonder why it worked for them so well. It worked better than anybody else who was doing it. Why? Because they kept injecting it into the Going Hard Dogs anyway. Going Hard Dogs was already there. That's why they had so much success with it. Shit. Me and Gotta Eat, I had Speedy. We was thinking about doing that before it ever happened. Speedy got stolen, but yes, we were getting ready to cross Stones, the Gotta Eat dogs into the Going Hard Dogs because they had ability, exceptional ability. Their ability crossed with Little Mayday, aka Kunta, brought they dogs to the forefront. But guess what you see there? You see Little Mayday. Through all the other shit, why did it finally start working? Got to add that age to it. The factor that was in our dogs that made them rough. You know, you got to look at it like, you know, when you guys are looking at these breedings, and it's always not about the pedigree. I see so many pedigrees, guys, where, you know, y'all got to remember, I am on the bus. And I keep saying this, when we get on the bus, we in a different space. So when y'all be showing me these pedigrees that don't have no work behind them, but got this great shit going on in the back, and by the time we get up to the front, and we can see it definitely designed, because you go back there in the back and you see how they made these inbreeding as a whole, and you get to the front, you can see where they kind of kept it tight. Yes, that's true. But you cannot tell me that this shit is just as good as the front than it was in the back when I don't see shit in the front. Even though it's all back here in the back. No, it has to consistently come all the way up to the front. Consistently. Why would you even be making these reasons if the back didn't look like it looked? It's you guys that are changing the look of it by building off the back and showing a lack of work in the front. How many generations are we going to have to be before we get back here and we got to go 8 generations to see what the shit was built from? Because we see nothing in the front end that proves that it's just as good as the back end. And you might have good bred dogs, but they're not the same as that shit that was produced in the back. Bred like it, but don't act like it because it does not have the caliber that the back was built off up in the front. If it does, it just haven't been proven yet because you haven't used it yet. So that's this. Remember, we're on the bus. And see, when we're on the bus, we're not talking in today's time. We're talking into the old time. You know, a lot of you guys don't like being back here with me because I keep reminding y'all that. I keep bringing it up. You cannot shoot it down. It irks you to hear me say it because it's the fact and the truth. You know, only the guys that's taking the chances that that's creeping around out there with this, this night vision is the only ones that can stand up and speak up. And a lot of you guys will never get a chance to understand what that is like because you were never down there in that dungeon to find out what it is that's winning. And then y'all got so much internet bullshit going on, you can't tell the fake from the real. And the only reason you can't because guess what? If you're not down there playing in the dark, then you don't even know what's going on when you get up here in the light. If you're down there playing in the dark, you would know what's going on in the dark, that you would know when there's a lie in the light. You would know what a lie looked like in the light. Today's game is a commercial game. If you're going to play the commercial game, these are the chances you take being in the commercial world. That's a good one, small time. That's a good one. Yeah, help me out, baby. That's how you help me out. You set me right. That's right. Facts, invading, and innovating. Perfect. I wish I could have said it any better, but I couldn't say it any better. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's right, Pit Dog. I didn't forget the Gator Boys and the Latin Boys connection and Latin connection. Yeah. That's right. Latino Ray, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I know one thing. I'm going to do this book. I'm going to have all y'all in that shit. That's what my book going to have. I'm going to be pushing all the names that ain't in the books. Like the Masons. Like the Gator Boys. Like Latin Connection. Like Force Connection. And miscellaneous. You ain't going to find none of these great dog men in the book. And the dogs that they produce. You ain't gonna see Super Kennels, the Colored Brothers in the book. You ain't gonna see the Arsenal Kennels. You ain't gonna see Strictly Business. Where are they at? The Untouchables. We need to see all that in a book. These are badass dogs. The social boys, they had great dogs.
Sammy Pitchman had great dogs. The Gino brothers. I don't see their name up there. We got them. You know, I don't see Mill Buster. I don't see Pro Set. Tom. These guys have great dogs. I'm talking about match dogs. I don't see Behinds. I don't see Loctite Kennels. I don't see the Wall Boys. I don't see Fat Boy in the King, Slingshot, Boot Camp Click, J-Bo. You know, we see Roster Man always. I mean, we see a Roster Man as Lady Stone. Man, Roster Man had he had a champion Bronson too. Man, champion Bronson. You know, we don't see enough of the Abrahams. You know, we see only we say Roadblock. We only hear Roadblock with Joe. You know, I mean, I'm surprised you don't hear. I mean, not one time did I ever see you pick up a book and see Hardcore Kennels in it. I ain't gonna let you. Don't forget to Bourbonite Paul, Grand Champion Sable. Sable should have been sitting around the names of goddamn. She'd have been sitting up there with Tornado. You know, shit. Who knows? I know she was a 42-pounder. And she was just as good as Batman. All the rest of those dogs, you got in there with maybe Suburbanite Paul Sable, like getting in the box with Batman. The Queen of Heart. She didn't go long her damn self. You made 40 minutes, believe me, you nothing over 40. If you had to be a hell of a dog to go 40 to Sable. A hell of a dog. These were great dogs that we have seen. It's not there in the history for y'all to actually see these pedigrees, see these dogs, and be able to study these dogs and without dropping way back here in the tutor coming all the way up. I can only bring you so far. I can only bring you so far. But if I don't bring it to you, who else gonna give it to you? How you gonna know? How you gonna build and learn? We still can't be building off of David 10. We can't be building off of Dead Series. We can't be building off of Man. And Pat Patrick and Monty Boyle. I mean, we passed that. I can talk about championship. I can bring up two badass producing females. Candy Fields Cali and that shit bitch my nephew got. That championship bitch. Producing dogs. They ain't in no book. Don't hear nobody speaking of them. Two great producing dogs. They gonna be in a book one day. But we don't talk about it because nobody know about it. We still talking about these old dudes. When y'all talk about old dudes and like y'all have done so much better than us. You know what I'm saying? Y'all hate to hear me talk. You don't like to hear me talk. Because I'm on the bus speaking from back here, hotter than the dog, way up there. Y'all still ain't got shit. Y'all don't like to hear me say that up there. Y'all don't want to hear me say that up there. And then I'll be giving you points why you ain't got shit up there. How the hell y'all gonna tell me and J-Bo Did y'all shit better than our shit was back here? When we standing back here looking up there, we don't see nothing compared to what we're going to do back here. Because times has changed. We ain't taking that away from you. But we're going to make sure you keep the eyes open, and we're going to make sure we keep the truth in your face, whether you like it or not. And I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to leave it right there, turn it back to the mic. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you guys for enjoying what I had to put out there today. Shout out to all those guys that made that shit possible, those champions that I put up there tonight. So anybody want to hate on going hard, you know what I'm saying? You know, there was and like I said, I don't sit there and be boasting about nothing I done, because one thing all I gotta say is they can take my shit and leave and do what I was doing with it, and that's why we can still talk about it. Shout out to everybody who had faith in those dogs and was able to prove that. All I gotta do is show it to y'all. I'll say that I can show you 25 dogs out there, champions, grand champions, all women, built off the line dogs. Cannot compare welcome to that. Dare you to. I talking shit on welcome. You already know what my problem was with welcome. But it took a going hard fam to make a point clear that, hey, they can win. Might not be the same type of mixture, but put the right shit with it. Yes, it can. It can stand up to it. I know I'm gonna have some of that shit. Believe that. I'm gonna have me some welcome all again. Think on. I see where it work at. Running up a pole, I'm gonna be running up a tree, I'm gonna be doing some treadmill, I'm gonna be doing some confirmation, I'm gonna be doing something to fit in, to get in. Ain't got to do nothing illegal these days. And if I got some night vision on, you won't know about it. All right. Because it's never meant for you guys to know about it up here. It's never supposed to make it to YouTube. It's never supposed to make it to Facebook. Why do you think it's so important to put your business out here? Give yourself 25 years up there underground and then come upstairs where it's safe to talk about. Something to talk about. Don't need to be blabbing all out there now. Don't make a damn difference up here now. What's in the dark now should stay in the dark. If you ain't in the dark, you don't know what's going on in the dark. Then you will never catch on by the time 25 years come around. You didn't miss that bus. That's why we don't have no new Mayday. That's why we don't have no Jeeps. That's why we don't have no Friscos. That's why we don't have no Bucks. Ain't nobody snatched none of them dogs out them top line of dogs. Nobody. All these years. Yet you got the nerve. You better to argue a point that has no relevance. Totally different conversation. Don't even want to accept that. But it is. Mike,
Hey, guys,
thank you.
On you, man.
All right, fellas. All right, before I'm gonna blow a stack right quick. Hey, I want to give a big shout out to everybody who found it in their heart to donate to the chat. I mean, to the channel. Again, it's not a matter of how much you give; it's the fact that you give. Always gonna be appreciated and well respected, fellas. Tonight, my title was, how long can we keep going hard? And that came from a conversation I heard a while back. And again, when people make certain comments, and after, I think we've been out of dogs, almost 20 years?
Oh,
30, almost 30. Yeah, we've been out of these dogs almost 30 years. 30. When I say out of the dogs, I mean out of the box, fellas. We never got out of dogs. We just stayed out of the box. But when you see over them 30 years, I can still go and pull up some going hard dogs that has lasted the test of time. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Because first of all, I always give that big shout out to our proteges. I always give my shout outs to the ones who came and picked those dogs up because they believed in us. They believed in us, and then when they got the dogs, they believed in us, and then they believed in our dogs. That's an accomplishment. But that's pretty much how we worked. We believed in the Kennels that we wanted to, we copycatted off of them. But then you can't help but respect the kennel because they can't help but respect us with their dogs. Which brings me back to what I had in my description. After many years of raising the game American Pit Bulls, we have had dogs that went on to become good dogs in good dog men's hands. One of the attributes to the dog's success is always going to be the dog man. We believe in that and we stand on that. Okay? That's not a shot over no bows. That's not a disrespect to anybody. How about that just being a belief? Generally, when you believe in something, it's almost like somebody telling you God don't exist. The person's entitled to believe that. But we already know what the argument is going to be. Because sometimes people's beliefs can be just as hard as some things is almost like unbelievable. This dog game is full of that shit. But one thing that these dogs can do that the God statement can't do. We can't never say we heard or seen God. But I sure enough can tell you, I've seen for myself a lot of great dog and dog men. And if I can't sit here and talk about how good they are and me showing you something to prove my point, and I'm standing on it, that's my factual statements. I just call it fact. Now you can bring other people in and say, well, so-and-so was better than so-and-so. Yeah, okay. We'll let you have that because that leads to a good conversation. Because if you know what you're talking about, it's always going to be a good conversation because it's going to be full of information, full of things you might not have ever heard before, full of things that you heard before, but you didn't look at it from another person's standpoint. That was my reasoning in trying to get you guys to understand that, and even the poll kinds of show it. This thing here is always, you can't have one without the other. You cannot have a good dog man without having good dogs. You got to go into this 50-50. And then where did it matter? It mattered in the box. Remember, we can only speak from our time, our experience, what we've seen, what we know, what we've done, what we've seen other people do. That's why it's important for us to do the shows like we do the shows. And the big question for me is, how long can we keep doing this? It will be done until we can't do it no more, or to the point we don't want to do it no more. because again, Mo said something that I always, and I push on him because, you know, Mo be on this little clock here and with this book thing, and it's was the last thing he do before he leave this world. He really truly wants to have that book, because these videos for him is not enough. These videos, YouTube 20 years from now might not even exist. But if you get the right book out there with the right information, you know, it might be something, you know, like the Richard Stratton book. In the very beginning, you know, it was a privilege to have Richard Stratton's book. It was a privilege to have Ed Crenshaw's book. But look why we were grabbing the book. Why were we so enthused about grabbing the book? Because what was in it. And maybe them books made us better dog men. And I said maybe, because I can't speak for everybody else, but I know the going hard comes from going like Barney. For y'all who don't know who Going Like Barney, pull up the story and read a story about Going Like Barney. Badass dog. Badass dog. And because what I read in the book and what Mo read in the book, that's what we decided on. We was going to be going hard. But going light, we're going to be going hard. Because that's how much this game meant to us. Everybody not have that enthusiasm, but I tell you what, to be in this game with the risk that came with this game, why not try to be the best that you can be? And that's where I'm going to leave it at, because how long can you keep doing it? Depends on how much you love what you're doing. So appreciate everybody who took the poll, participated in the poll. And before I get out of here, you know I got to get my quickie in. You know how my quickies go. Y'all show me some love. Show me some love. Give me some damn thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Muscles, muscles, muscles. Now, give yourself and all the dog men and the dogs some goddamn roses. Roses. We need them damn roses. Show some love. Hey, fellas, y'all don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that damn like button. And hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And fellas, on the way out, don't forget to hit that like button. Big shout out again to my man RBG Lone Wolf. Always showing the love, fam. Always showing the love. And fellas, as a side note, for me, as a side note, you know, I seen the great, you know, to me, I thought it was a great fight. Great fight night Saturday night when I look at Crawford and Canelo. Two real bulldogs. But let me ask y'all something. Is there anybody else out there, being that we have a new reigning, to me, pound for pound, the best boxer in boxing, is there anybody that you feel like is worthy, Canelo type worthy, that would even be considered a challenge? Because Canelo had his challenge and he stood up to that challenge. Yeah, to me, I think I've seen him do it twice. He stood up to the challenge with Floyd, and he stood up to the challenge with Bud, and that's what you're supposed to do. But now that the tides have changed, is there anybody that we could actually see climb in the ring with Crawford to where we can say, Nah, he's just not Canelo type. He's just not, there's just nothing that you can say is out there that we could even put in that kind of category. So does that take anything away from Crawford? It's like the dog game. Possibly it can. Because the best one he could have ever had, he just had. Anything less than that doesn't fall in the same category. Now, we all know all good things must come to an end. As a Saturday, we got a chance to see what it looked like. Can't take nothing away from the man that lost. All you can do is respect it. That's what this is supposed to be all about. The best are always supposed to meet the best. The thing is, the best that we got now, is there anything that would even qualify to be even considered a challenge for what we consider now the best? Something to think about, something we can talk about later. But I thought I'd throw that out there because I found that to be, you know, like Buck and Sandman. To me, I don't even consider the Jeep and Homer fight like that because I really believe Jeep should have been that Jeep and Angus. That should have been the one. There was too much controversy in the Homer situation. Actually had off to both dogs, but considering it went the way it went, I just don't think Angus would have lost to Jeep. I thought I just kind of seen Jeep didn't have enough to stop a dog like Angus. You know, that's my point of view. You know how history is. You know, that's like Lady Stone going in the tornado. I wish it would have happened. I was there to see it happen. It just didn't happen. But boy, it would have been one to see. So, yo, look, big shout out to my man Fort Lauderdale D. And hold on. I know I still got 27 people in here while I'm shutting this down. I mean, is that all we can get tonight? Is 2 people putting up some roses and some muscles and some thumbs? Oh, well, let me make this a little bit amusing for you then. While we do this, how we try it like this. Can I encourage anybody to do this? Let me give y'all a little something to rock your head with while you're on the way out. Yeah. Now, just go over there and tick, tick, tick. Hit that little keyboard. Show some love. I gotta see something right quick. Hold on. Well, again, I want to give a big shout out to all and everybody. We had 91 people who actually participated in the poll. That's a good thing. Really appreciate that, fellas. Really, really, really do appreciate that. For all my people I got still hanging around here, don't y'all just do something that's real. Hey, my man, Mr. Burning Star, Fort Lauderdale D, as always, fam. You always be hanging out there in the back street. You know, appreciate the love, fam. You know, I think I'm trying to get together a show. I want to do a show, Mo, while you're still here. I want to do a show with STP versus Super Kennels. Whoa! Y'all stand by for that one.
Yeah, we're gonna
STP, we gotta do some research. It's a lot of work involved. But hey, big shout out still for me 2 great kennels. But you know, everybody don't know the history of these great kennels and these great dogs. But 2 of the greatest kennels of all times. You know what I mean? 2 of the greatest kennels of all time when it came down to this bulldog game. Super Kennels and STP. More champions and grand champions than any kennel out there. And for me, Super Kennels broke the STP legendary record.
Tom, you gonna count because Tom, you cannot fit in that category because these are dog men that match their dog.
We're talking about time, right?
Yes, right.
Oh, time don't count because these people I'm talking about, time don't count. Time, he's always been, I mean, a dog man, but he's been a better breeder than a box man. These 2 kennels I'm talking about, these men are responsible for a lot of great dogs that we talk about to this day. But that's the show that we're going to be working on. That's the show before I even make an attempt to even put a show together like that, we're going to do our research to make sure that we give them both their just dues. Because again, greatness deserves that. Greatness deserves time, and we're going to give them in their time. Big shout again out to my man, Mr. Burning Star Pit Dog, Small Time. Mayhem, I see you, fam.
Yeah, we're 400 something views tonight. Somebody was looking.
Yeah. Hey, we didn't make a Friday night because we just didn't want to make a Friday night. You know, we was actually here.
Was in his feelings.
You know, Mo was in his feelings. You know what I'm saying? Mo getting his feelings sometimes, and I'll be like, I'm not going to be sitting here talking because I don't have shit to talk about. When I talk, I'm talking something that's going to be educational. And I didn't feel like talking no educational shit because I had enough. But for everybody who showed up and showed out, y'all just make sure y'all keep hitting that like button. Y'all make sure y'all keep hitting that subscribe button. There's a ticker that runs across the bottom for that cash app. You know, as long as you're dealing with these dogs, you know, we living in a different time and a different era. And I can't really get into what y'all do in the now. But one thing I strive for, and I think we both strive for, is the greats, the olds, they do their respect too. And the only way they're going to get that respect is that we talk about it. And it's important to talk about because the future of the game is always going to depend on what was done in the past. For those who don't understand what that means, well, you will, because there's so much more than in the Jeeps and the Zebos, the Bucks. We can only account for 25. And for us, that's nothing compared to STP and Super Kennels because other people were able to take our dogs and do what they did. I'm talking about 2 kennels who did this shit on their yard. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about people who this shit was on the yard. You know? That's meant to be appreciated and damn sure meant to talk about. So until we see each other, y'all keep doing what you're doing. Hey, I'm gonna get back to saying this. Don't forget to check them chains. Don't forget to check them collars. You know what I'm saying? These things are important.
But them cameras.
Don't forget to check them cameras. Make sure they got batteries on them and they always on play. You never know. Fellas, do me a favor. And this is a small favor. If you take just 10% of the things that we talk about and apply it to what you're already trying to do, I guarantee you, you'll be back for the 90%. You will. That's like when somebody makes something, and they say, taste this, and you taste it and be like, damn, that tastes good. Just that little pit on your finger will make you go and slam a whole entire cake if they let you. Slam a whole meal just because that little tap on, just that little taste. That was good. Before you know it, you're eating a whole bowl of this shit. That's how the dog game works. Just take a little bit. Just take a taste. Of the information that is given and apply it. I guarantee you'll be back for the 90%. But in this game, you got to be as game as a dog. And that's why we always stress it, and we stress it with authority. You better always. That's right. Let me help you out in here, Mo. Bugs with the good, showing the love. Appreciate that, man. What's up, Bug? Hey, man, again, let me tell you something. You better to always scratch the win.
You better believe it. You better believe it. Come on. Poll says 67% A, B, 30% dog man, 7% dog, 14%. C, 30% dog, 70% dog man, got 12%. D, it doesn't matter. It jumped up to 7%.
Run that back, Mo.
They got the goal right here, fellas. 50% on the end, 50% dog, man, 50% dog.
Oh, hey, 50% dog, man, 50% dog. 67%. B, 30% dog, man, 50% dog. 14%. C, 30% dog, 50% dog, man, 12%. D, it doesn't matter. Can you believe it went up to 7%? Daddy, Toddy.
Yeah. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Yeah.
I want to hear you.
Say something there, Mo. I want to hear what you sound like.
Yes, sir. Hey, fellas. Thank y'all for coming out and hanging out. Motivate me, y'all. Motivate me.
Now, when I talk in this mic, do I sound like I'm breaking up to you?
A little cracky.
A little cracky, right? Because with that mic check 1 2, mic check 1 2. Sound better that way? Well, I'm trying to get this mic situation right because, you be getting loud.
Oh, I got, you got to put me on a mic that can handle my emotions. I
got my studio mic over there.
I can't have training wheels, man. I can't have training wheels, baby. If I want to run fast, I want to run fast. Love y'all, man. Love all y'all out there, man. Yeah. Swing it.
Hey, big shout out to all my people out there on the back street. Appreciate the love, fam. Boots with the goods. Yeah.
Cynthia, I'm out of here. Come on.
The dog game has died. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cop.
Yeah! The lost.